right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Let's start that conversation on the state of the nation. Honorable Eddie Okech is here, Senator for Migori, Honorable Owen Baya, Member of Parliament Kilifi North, and Honorable Yusuf Hassan, Member of Parliament for Kamkunji. We're still waiting for Honorable Godsi Otsotsi, the Senator for Vihiga. As soon as he comes in, we'll drop him into the conversation. We'd like to hear your views at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Front page of the Daily Nation and the Standard as well is an all-out war on alcohol abuse, fighting the bottle, several measures that have been put up there, sobering directives they call them. And I'll start with you, Honorable Baya. Is the government heading in the right direction? Is this how to fight the bottle?
Thank you very much, Trevor, for having me here this morning. And in response to that, I think as a country we are sliding into an area that we shouldn't in terms of alcoholism. And as a responsible government, I think we have a responsibility from Kenyans to protect the young people and protect this country and put it in good state. And therefore, I think it's been the mandate of the Deputy President and the Ministry for Interior to wage an all-out war on alcoholism. Alcoholism must be fought. And the question is, which method, how do we want to do it? One of the things that we need to look at, this alcoholism that we're having in this country is in what state? The alcoholism that we have right now is in illicit drinks that are permeating the alcohol market. And when this kind of drinks are permeating into the alcohol market, then you have a responsibility as a country to stop illicit drinks, illicit brews, things that kill people. You know, it's, we fight crime and thuggery and murder and all that. But when there are drinks that are murdering people, you saw the case of the 14 people.
Yeah, more than 23 actually in Kirinyaga.
Yes, in Kirinyaga that died because of illicit drinks. There are people there that are manufacturing things that just kill people. This is actually murder, that is being committed. So as a country, we have an obligation to protect our people. And therefore, I do not see anything wrong with the measures that the government is taking. What I would like to see personally is to stop illicit drinks, to stop these poisonous things that are being consumed, because people want to make quick money. And they're exploiting young people who are out there, who have no jobs, but they have 1 or 2 shillings that they can spend on those alcohol drinks, illicit alcoholic drinks, and therefore we have those issues. So the tough measures that have been issued by the Interior CS actually in a way to wage war on alcoholism, but also to stem out this issue of illicit drinks. Trevor, there are issues of drugs. Drugs now are becoming easily available, hard drugs, easily available in the country. There must be somebody who is failing in his duty. I have been asking this question. This country, I have not seen a factory for cocaine in this country, or heroin, or hard drugs in this country. So how do they find their way into the country? Our borders, our airports, our ports are allowing, our border points are allowing hard drugs to permeate into the society, and therefore I think as Interior CS he has a greater responsibility if he wants to protect Kenyans from robbery, from murders, from what that have been executed through a gun or through any other means. He also has a responsibility to stop Kenyans from dying through illicit drinks. So I totally agree with what Professor Kindiki is doing in terms of stopping drugs and illicit drinks. I think the emphasis here is what illicit drinks. But sometimes, we have a saying in Kiswahili that ukichoma siafu, sometimes hata wadudu wengine ambao sio siafu wanaweza kuchomeka. So in this war, other people will be caught in this war. But probably it may be difficult to really sieve through to say this is a good trader in alcoholism and this is a bad trader in alcoholism. So in this war, of course, we have a duty to actually protect businesses, genuine businesses, but we have a duty to protect Kenyans from the consequences of illicit drinks and alcoholism.
Honorable Yusuf, is this the right way of dealing with the alcohol menace?
Well, I'll say it's a good step forward, but I think it needs more than that. For example, the biggest problem we have, apart from the producers and the consumers out there, is that the state machinery itself is part of the problem. If you go to some of the neighborhoods, like in the Eastlands, the people who oversight and make sure that this the so-called illicit drinks are produced and sold are part of the government. The chief system is part of the problem. And I was quite...
now they've been prohibited from being part of it.
But it's not enough to prohibit them.
Yeah.
They should be taken off. The Ministry of Interior needs to reform its internal security mechanism, because there are a lot of rotten apples in that system. There are chiefs who are facilitating and promoting this as part of their business. And just to urge them not to own a bar is not enough. I think they should be removed from the system. But also we need a more holistic, multi-pronged approach, which is that by banning or restricting some of this alcoholic stuff and drugs, they just go underground. What are we doing to deal with public and civic education, educating our population, creating a culture in our schools and our institutions to make sure these things are not acceptable? Because in communities that do not have an alcohol drug culture usually have built a mechanism from the bottom upwards. So I think, yes, the minister's measures are important, but they must be complemented with a much more serious approach to dealing with the sources and the real causes of this particular problem in our communities, because there are certain communities that have completely been destroyed by alcohol. There are communities who've come now into drugs, and there's lack of control at the state level. How does this stuff come into our borders? How is it distributed? Because we have a significant proportion of our law enforcement and our government system that is in cahoot, either through corruption or through self-interest in this kind of businesses. And unless we can deal with that particular aspect, a significant part of this business would go underground and would continue to operate as usual, because the law enforcement people themselves are part of that particular problem. And I think the measures that the minister has brought in should be pushed hard to make sure that, in fact, the culprits in the system are either removed from the system or are apprehended and brought to justice.
All right. Eddie, will these measures be effective enough? Are they well thought through?
First of all, good morning, Trevor, and good morning to our viewers. It's such a nice day that we have gotten again to actually be able to reflect on the things that are happening in our country. And I think that with regard to these issues, there are many aspects to it. Number one, I do agree with my brothers here. When we were with Owen, at the makeup center, I told him that it would be good for him to get a good makeup to make the garment look a little bit good. And the reason why I would start with that simple joke on my brother is because we are seeing a sense that this fight on illicit alcohol and alcoholism is becoming a major issue just because it's affecting Mount Kenya. Because in the past we have seen, even through social media, where our young people are affected by not only alcohol but other sources of drug abuse in the coast. In fact, last year was very sad to see what was happening in the coast, and our young people in the coast, and other areas that young people are stressed. In Eldoret, we've seen a number of young people getting into drugs and also getting into alcohol or excessive consumption of alcohol in Nakuru. And it wasn't given the kind of attention that it needs. In the parts of the nation right now, the fight against alcoholism is coming out as though it's an issue of Mount Kenya, and the champion for it happens to be the deputy president that comes out strongly as making this a Mount Kenya issue. rather than a national issue where other drug and substance abuse is affecting other young people. So the first thing I wanted to comment about is that if you're going to fight any kind of substance abuse, then we must consider the entire country, because this also comes with the investment of government. For you to see the Interior Cabinet Secretary coming to talk about it, it means that there's deployment of resources. Just the same way you would fight the war that we are seeing in the north, in the same way government will be deploying resources to be able to fight this kind of menace.
But these are national measures, they're not just...
I know the measures are national, but I'm saying that the fight, the way it has been framed, has been a problem. But on the national level, that's where I was going next, is to be able to actually analyze it economically. Trevor, last year, the government did put a capitation on a secondary school at 65 billion. The illicit alcohol industry is valued at 67 billion. That means that if it was mainstreamed into our tax bracket, the government has got a chance of making up to about 30% of that in terms of income tax. That means that there hasn't been a structure to be able to mainstream some of these illicit brewers into our economy. Just to give you the landscape, how it looks like in the what they call legal market. The legal market has got about 80% of our economy, which is about 250 billion Kenya shillings in the economy. But you see, there is this blanket condemnation of local brewers as being bad so long as you are a local brewer. And today, if you look at the spirits that have been consumed in Kenya, the common one is chang'aa. And for me, the person who brews chang'aa is the same as Mama Mboga. Mama Chang'aa is the same as Mama Mboga. Because there are Mama Chang'aas, there are so many in this country that have taken their children through school by using that chang'aa. The only problem that has been is the exaltation of other external brands. If you look at the one that is most consumed in Kenya when I was doing my studies, Captain Morgan is Jamaican. Bailey's is Irish. If you look at Johnny Walker, you look at all these brands, I don't know them, I don't drink them, but I see them when we analyze the economy in such a way that what is so difficult in terms of looking at these illicit brewers, in terms of what is it that they're lacking to be able to be licensed and facilitated to have competitive market.
So because we standardized and approved rather than blanket.
Yeah, they should be standardized, approved, and then be assisted to mainstream into that market economy, because that economy is so huge that if you just leave it that we want to have 80% of the alcoholic drinks that are being consumed in the country coming from abroad, and then you want to kill 20% that is remaining, that is the local industry. And I can tell you, my grandmother used to be involved in one way or another in chang'aa production so that she can be able to assist us. And I've seen a number of women, even in Nairobi here, if you go to Mathare, if you go to Gomongo, if you go to Babadogo, there are women who are struggling. They have got the art, they have got the chemistry, but the only thing that they lack is that proper standardization and modernization to be able to make it. If you go to somewhere like Siaya, there is genius of people who can be able to make some very good alcohol brew. The other day you saw even the court trying to criminalize Muratina, which has been a traditional alcohol drink. If you go to where my brother Sosi comes from, they have got something called busa. Nobody exalts it and be able to mainstream it into the alcoholic production industry and make it economically viable. So for me, my advice to the government will be, can we look at how do we make these alcoholic brewers economically viable in our economy and assist them in the notion of the hustler nation. Because I think they are hustlers, and there's a big hustler nation that has got 67 billion as an economy, that then we assist them come up.
Okay.
But that doesn't justify the consumption of those dangerous drinks. Those ones must be dealt with as a national issue, but the angle of dealing with them must be looking at the gaps and opportunities that they have to be able to lift them into the market economy.
Okay, Yusuf, you want to add something?
Yes, I just think that it is impossible to eradicate the consumption of alcohol in our country. And I think For me, I take the position that it should be eliminated, but it's not possible. The reality is completely different. And we really need to decolonize our approach to fighting alcoholism.
I agree.
Because we have criminalized alcohol production because of the colonial systems that we've had, that African brews became illicit.
Yeah.
And instead, Western capitalist industries were introduced into our country, that people now drink drinks that are of European origin or Western origin rather than African origin. And I think it is important for maybe the government to be realistic, like in some other African countries, to legalize, regulate the production of local brews, and to empower the African population in rural areas to be able to produce their own indigenous brews and tax them and set standards. There are global standards. Tanzania produces busaa. South Africa, you get them in packages. Uganda, Waragi sells very well, and Konyagi in Tanzania. So actually, these are industries that could empower and enrich local populations. They don't need to be criminalized.
Okay.
They need to be brought into the local economy. And then you can deal with the hardcore drug problems, hardcore abusers, and so on. But you cannot deal with these issues unless you create a partnership between the local population and the citizens and the government. And you cannot turn poachers into gamekeepers by asking chiefs to voluntarily close down their bars. I think that just seems ridiculous. The expectation of the minister is unrealistic.
Okay.
These people are corrupt to the core. They make money out of illicit drinks, and they need to be taken out of the system rather than be given an option to become gamekeepers. They are never going to be.
Okay. Owen, I know you have to jump in, but let me bring in Godfrey Osotsi, who's just joining us, Senator for Vihiga. Godfrey, we're talking about these issues and the measures that have been put by government to fight alcohol. Are they the right measures in your view?
Well, first of all, good morning, Kenyans who are listening to me. Alcohol is a problem because I think when you move around the countryside, in almost all parts of the country, you see youth looking strange because of the effects of alcohol. And I want to agree with colleagues who have said maybe the approach needs to be relooked at. Because I think the most fundamental issue that we need to address is that what is creating this problem? What is creating alcoholism? Not just in Mount Kenya region, but across the country. I think the main issue here is lack of opportunities for our youth. No employment, economy not doing very well. So the youth have nothing else to do. The youth are very frustrated. So they end up now engaging into drug abuse and alcoholism. So I think, yes, the government is taking very serious steps to address the issue of alcoholism. Okay. But the approach is wrong.
Yeah.
I think more focus should be put on creating opportunities for the youth so that they can be engaged, so that they can be very productive. But closing down and making alcohol an illegal commodity will not work, because the efforts have been tried before. You remember Mututhu tried to do this. You remember even late Michuki tried to do this, but the results were the same. In fact, every time they try to carry out a crackdown on alcohol, the result is that the consumption increases. So I think that's what the government needs to focus on.
Yeah.
Secondly, there are so many producers of illicit alcohol. Some locally, and others coming from neighboring countries.
Okay.
For example, those of us who are neighbors to Uganda, you find most of those key markets on the border, including my own market, Luanda. There's too much illicit alcohol being sold. Why is it happening? Where are the police?
Yeah.
Why are they allowing in this alcohol to come through? So I think the government must also try and fight the source of the illicit alcohol. Because you cannot say you are cracking down on bars, but the source of that illicit alcohol, you are not fighting it.
Okay.
And thirdly, the fight against alcoholism will lead to other things. Because when you fight alcoholism, from my experience, where I come from, then insecurity also increases. Because the police now focus on alcohol. They want to raid changa dens, they want to raid illicit alcohol dens, and they forget about providing security. Forget about providing security. Now that becomes another problem.
Okay.
So I think the approach, the strategy must be relooked at so that we have a very consistent approach of dealing with this problem.
All right.
But most importantly, more focus needs to be put in providing opportunities for our youth.
All right. Owen, close for us this topic. So that
I just want to say this. One of the greatest problems that we must grapple with as a nation is killers and murderers out there who pretend to be business people. Because what is sold in the market today, Trevor, is actually poison. People who want to make quick money, you know, through sale of, actually some of this pure methane, you know, people are selling pure methane as alcohol. And when you have it out there, what it does to the young generation and actually to older people, families, Trevor, are broken, you know, because of what Major Mwangi in his book calls Kill Me Quick. You know, if you read the books of Major Mwangi, you see the theme of alcoholism actually traverse through all his books, if you've read Major Mwangi's books. And he calls some of these things that kill me quick. Just have just one thought and you are dead for the day. You don't feel hungry, you don't feel pain, you don't feel anything. As a way of an escapist mode of trying to run away from the realities of life. But that is not the point, Eddie. We have poison being sold out there. While I like what Ed is talking about in terms of can we actually try to bring sanity into this industry, see what we can do to control, to produce more. But again, what you need to look at is Kenya Bureau of Standards has actually issued standards. Actually, you heard what the minister said, that they've cancelled those standards. Actually, they have recalled. Because this is a businessman who wants to trade in alcohol and has been given all the licenses, including the first. He has taken his samples to KEBS. KEBS has tested them and said this is okay and has given them standard. But they go through the back and change everything. But they still put the gold, the diamond seal of standard. And they put it there. This has actually been approved by KEBS. But when you come to test what is being sold in the market and what KEBS approved, they're two totally different things because people want to make quick money. So the war on alcoholism, and especially illicit, and you know, illicit, something that is illicit, something that is illegal, it is forbidden. It should not be out there in the market. But Kenyans are consuming brews that are actually poison, and I think we need to put a break to it. Okay. Secondly, I liked what Osotsi said, although I may not agree with him totally, that the more security officers go out there to these dens, alcohol dens and all that, then we have, on the flip side, a problem of security because they control. There is a correlation between alcoholism, drugs, and insecurity. Areas where you find a lot of alcoholism, you're also most likely to find that there is a lot of insecurity in the area. Areas where you find a lot of drugs, for example, you go to Mombasa, and I want to address the issue of drugs that has been taken. Go to Mombasa today. You can't be out in an area like Kisauni by 6 o'clock. You cannot be out there. Because there are those young people who consume drugs who move around in pangas and in gangs. If you go to areas of Bamburi today, Kisauni, and those suburbs of Mombasa today, there are insecurity. I had a discussion with a presenter from KBC, and he was saying she didn't know her brother was actually, a sister, is actually deeply into drugs. He one day saw her in a gang of those panga-wielding guys. And they're robbing everybody. When you have Luva pens in your house, they come and remove all of them as you watch to go and sell so that they make money to buy drugs. You know, if you're wearing a watch in town, they come and take it away. Actually, they're not stealing it; they're taking it away so that they can satiate their drug issue. So there is a correlation between insecurity in a country and drugs and alcoholism. Okay. So for us to build a country that is secure and to secure everybody, then we need to fight alcoholism and drugs. Okay. And I want to go deep into the issue of drugs. Drugs, hard drugs, cocaine, methane, heroin, was a problem at the coast, majorly, because of probably the entry points. And even as Eddie was talking about, he talked about the cost and in relation to drugs. Today, if you talk to Mheshimiwa here, he will tell you hard drugs are in his constituency. They have come to Nairobi. They are moving deep inside the country because there has not been control on the borders and, you know, the points of entry into the country. So I have seen drugs devastate families in my constituency, hard drugs. All right. If you go to Watamu, you go to Malindi, you come to even Kilifi, my town. I have said I want to go into the war against drugs because I see what it is doing. We invest a lot of money in education. But what happens when the child gets to 11 years? They're started on drugs slowly. And, you know, the drugs trade is not a demand-driven trade. It is a supply-driven. People only consume when they are available. Okay. And they start developing an appetite for them because they are easily available. Right. Same as alcohol. It's not demand-driven. You don't demand alcohol if you've never tested it. You start demanding it after you have tested it. And because of that, it means, therefore, this problem is created by suppliers. And when the suppliers bring in the drugs and the alcohol, then they create a population that requires it, and therefore they create consumers. Okay. So we must find a way to stop the supply. For me, in this country, we must stop supply of drugs and illicit alcohol.
I have to take a quick break. Yes, like 1 minute.
In fact, 1 minute.
Yes.
Owen, what I wanted to encourage you to see is that the consumption of what is called illicit brew is just 20% of the market share of the alcohol consumption in the country. 80% that is happening is what is called legal consumption. That legal consumption, where the people are consuming most of that legal consumption, there is no insecurity. Today, if you go to Kilimani, you will find so many bars in Kilimani, and people drink, people even drive to the drinking places and go home without any incidences. So therefore, it's not an security question. At the moment we demonize people who are small brewers who then end up finding themselves as illicit brewers, the thing that we're doing is that we are killing the economy and allowing the economy of big brands from outside, the way my brother was talking about it here, to be able to come in. Because the issue of KEBS, if you've been watching all the journalistic conversations that we have had about this alcoholic abuse and the ones that have caused serious atrocities in our country, those guys have got no even any chance of getting even licenses. So, you know, when we're talking about bottom-up economy here, and we just passed BPS, and it passed on your house, and it also passed in our house, there are 9 areas that the government chose to focus on in terms of bolstering the economy. I think that alcohol and entertainment industry should be the 10th area, apart from sugarcane that I really care about. Alcohol and entertainment industry should be should be there because they are leading to about 500 billion Kenya shillings of turnover every year. All right. So then we can be able to regulate it and make it possible for people to do business.
All right. I have to take a quick break. When we come back, there's a lot we need to talk about. First of all, the minority senators are unhappy. We'll find out from them why they're unhappy. Also, the NADCO report, the accusation of the Kenya Kwanza team is cuddling that NADCO report. We'll talk about that. And also, is it time to review part of the Finance Act? Because we saw it in Gatanga and Kandara MPs who rejected the tax levied on farmers. By 1st of March, farmers were supposed to have their sales on e-teams. but they helped farmers eject the KRA officers who were out on a sensitization mission. So we'll find out. And also there was a promise from Isaiah as the executive saying that there are a few things here and there that we may need to check. So is it time to actually check some of the Finance Act, the provisions that passed through? That's a conversation we're having in just a bit. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. See you in just a bit.